Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective, where you get a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. Happy Wednesday. It's Wednesday. I'm closer to at least being on time. However, I do have the thing I promised from Monday, but I know some people are trying to come on live today, so let's just pull some of these and see what gems we get today. So, wow, that's a whole lot of them. Maybe we'll just go with those. Okay, let's just go with those. All right. Sorry. All right. This is why I was talking about on Monday how it's kind of going to be one of those weeks because I'm still getting back into the swing of all of this. But I'm determined. Strung 3 days together in a row on this show, so that's good. That is good. It's recreating my routine. So let's see. I know you got mountains to climb, but always stay humble and kind. Change is about removing the negative, not the positive. Change is about removing the negative, not the positive. I know sometimes we go through these things where we feel broken and we feel like we're shattered into pieces, and that happens to everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. That's going to happen to you probably sometime in your life. And you get to decide what pieces you keep and what pieces you choose to just toss away. So that being said, you have to make those choices. It's all in the power of a choice. That's what baby sibling said to me one time when I told her, I said, I don't know in which direction to turn. When I was really kind of in the midst of this whole spiral I'm just coming out of now. And, you know what? I'm sorry. This is bothering me. I don't know why. Anyways, I'll fix that later. This is my mind right now. This is my mind coming out of a dinged up mental health. So I'm not sure who's on, but if it's baby sibling, happy hump day. Hump day, hump day, hump day, hump day, hump day. So anyways, yeah, so there's that. But, the live on a blogging page is so much different than on your personal page because I can't see who's on unless they comment. So that being said, like I said, this is day 3. This is the third day in a row I've done the show, which is a lot more than I can say for myself for the last 3 or 4 months. But I'm doing my best to kind of get my head back into things. But this is sometimes how the dinged up mental health works when you're coming out of something. And it was rough. But I think that was part of the end of my healing journey, to be honest with you, where I needed to take that time to pull myself together, to decide what pieces I wanted, to decide what pieces I wanted to get rid of and what pieces I wanted to keep, what was no longer serving me versus what was serving my life. And it doesn't mean, like something is in service to you. What it means is, does it bring anything to your life? Does it bring joy to your life? Does it bring negativity to your life? Exactly. So that's what you have to decide to keep or not keep. Looking for that validation? Here it is. Go. Set yourself free. Set yourself free. That would be fun, right? Let's see. There's the Taj Mahal, Egypt. So India, Egypt, the Alps, Australia, London, Italy, New York, and Paris. So, yeah. I know a little bit of my geography. Woo. So yeah, just go, travel, do your thing. You never know what you're going to find. So this is spring. I don't know what spring has anything to do with this, but whatever you're waiting for, yay, it's baby sibling. Good morning. I don't know what spring has anything to do with it, but whatever is going to come to its head, it will be in the spring, or whatever it is you're waiting for to happen, it'll be in the spring. So, there you go. Fox. Remember Fox, the phoenix, Dumbledore's phoenix, if you're a Harry Potter fan. So a heart filled with love is like a phoenix that no cage can imprison. Rumi is a great, poet, kind of like a spiritual being. He's almost like to me, he's almost like a Buddha or a Muhammad or a Jesus. I know people are like, you can't say Jesus in there. It's like, I can, right? It's my show, my rules. But to me, that's what Rumi is. He's up there trying to preach all these good things, trying to preach all this love and how people should get along with one another. And he references Jesus a lot in the book I'm reading. So in his own sayings, saying, like, brother. So I think this is somebody who's kind of like a, he was a very spiritual poet and writer. But, and I want to learn more about him. I admit I don't know a lot about Rumi, but I love Rumi. I love his teachings. I love his, some of the works. It's just everything that I've read so far is very beautiful, very kind of profound. So a heart filled with love is like a phoenix that no cage can imprison. So rise. All right. So go in love. Let's see. Did I do the hump day? Did I do the hump day yet? If I haven't, I did it earlier, but I always try to do this for a baby sibling when she comes on a Wednesday. So happy hump day, hump day, hump day, hump day, hump day. So I don't know who was on earlier, but you got it first. So, and then the sock, Dobby's sock. Dobby has no master. So, and if you're familiar with Harry Potter, you understand the sock, but you are no longer a servant to that which weighs you down. You are free. You are no longer a servant to that which weighs you down. You are free. So, Monday, I said I was going to pull a card, one of the cards that fell out of this deck, actually. So, but I also promised that I was going to read the one thing that I'm not sure I did in December. I'm not sure if I had that show in December or not. So, sorry, I got attacked by my cat before I came on. So, I mean, not in a bad way, just lots of lovin's. So, furry. So let's see which card comes out today. Just be yourself no matter what others might think of you. Be true to you and speak your truth. Be true to you and speak your truth. So I'm going to cover that in a second. But like I said, on Monday, this was supposed to be self-care for December 6th. But I talked about all that on Monday. But I wanted to read this again because I'm not sure if I did it that day. But it's called A Little Guide to Glimmers. So, excuse me, it's called A Little Guide to Glimmers. And I really like this because I really think it touches on what a lot of us can focus on, should focus on, especially me. When I first read this, it kind of like, ooh, hit me between the eyes. So I'm going to read this now. And my friend posted it, but my friend Susan, but I have no idea who to attribute this to because there was nothing on there. It was just these words. So it's called A Little Guide to Glimmers. Glimmers are the opposite of triggers. Okay, so if anybody's familiar with triggers, you'll understand that. Glimmers are opposite of triggers. They are tiny moments of awe. They speak joy and evoke inner calm. They have a positive effect on our mental health. They are micro moments causing tiny mood shifts. They send cues of safety to our nervous system. They bring feelings of ease and contentment. Our body responds with positive energy. They allow us to feel hope when lost. Our nervous system is strengthened by them. They can increase our well-being. Once we start embracing them, it can become a beautiful way to see the world around you. So again, once you start embracing those little glimmers, it can become a beautiful way to see the world around you. And I added this. And if you think any of this is bullshit, remember how you felt the last time you had a glimmer of hope. Because that's what a glimmer is. It's hope. It's faith. It's having trust. It's believing. It's allowing the joy to come in, even in those dark moments when it feels like the whole world is just caving in around you. I wish I had seen this in the last couple of weeks, because the last couple of weeks have really been a struggle. Last night was a bit of a struggle for me as well. Because there's this point when you get to, for the people that are going through healing their trauma, there's going to be a point where it's hard to make that decision to move forward or to not to move forward. And that doesn't mean anything specific. What I mean is for yourself, because when you go through so much trauma, you become comfortable in this place where you're at. And I've talked about this on other shows where, previous shows where, and I think maybe even on Monday, where you become so comfortable in a certain type of feeling that moving away from that feeling, even if it's towards something better, is scary. because it's not familiar. It's not the unknown. And more importantly, it's not something you can control because it's not something you understand. But that's where trust and faith comes in. That's where gratitude can come in, to bring you that joy, to go in love. And going in love is not easy. It's hard. Baby Sibling and I were talking about it yesterday, and it can be one of the craziest things you go through because, you do end up taking off those rose-colored glasses. But here's the thing. You can live in a world with those rose-colored glasses on and still be completely aware of what's going on in the world. When we say go in love, that doesn't mean that we don't see what's happening. When we try to preach and teach and, share positivity and gratitude, it's not because we're not aware of what's going on in the world. It's because we're trying to put something better into it. We're trying to, push forth an idea that people can live in some sort of peace. I don't think there's ever going to be full peace because people still have disagreements. People still fight. People still have arguments. But when it explodes onto a world stage, where are we going wrong? Because someone always has to be right. So, nobody knows how to meet in the middle anymore. No one knows how to sit down and have discussions. You always have to have some kind of mediator come in and say, hey, we should probably talk about this. Let's think about it. Because someone always has to be right, or someone has to fight their, hundreds or thousands year long war, against all the people trying to oppress them. It's like, come on. You fight this thing saying, well, you're doing this to me. But remember, when you're pointing, 3 fingers are pointing back at you. So do we stop and look at our own behavior? Or do we just keep pointing that finger and saying, well, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. But meanwhile, there's these little guys back here going, you might want to take a look in the mirror too. I'm not saying everybody's right. I'm not saying certain people are wrong and certain people are right. I'm saying that people have ideals, people have beliefs, and people are always going to have those ideals and beliefs. And until we find a way to come to the middle, the glimmers are going to be just things that are floating out there. They're going to be things that, are just an idea because we don't know how to hang on to it to make it something real. And when we're going through our own things, our own traumas, like I said, whether you have a dinged up mental health or not, people go through moods, they go through depression, they go through sadness, they have the blues. And again, I call them the common people blues. And I don't mean common people in a bad way. I mean that, people who do not have depression or do not fall under the mental health umbrella, life is different for them. They can just, say, okay, well, fine, and move through it like that. And it might come back and haunt them a little, but mostly they just deal with it on the spot, or they take time to deal with it as they're going through it because, they're not afraid of the consequences. And like I said, when you have a dinged up mental health, this may not be the case for everybody, but it really does feel like you have like 5 things shouting at you from 10 directions. And it's scary because it's overwhelming and you just want to shut down. You just want to walk away from it all, get rid of it all. I have been there. I have done this. I have done it several times. I have hit my bottoms over and over and over again. Sometimes when I hit bottom, I kept digging, thinking it would get better. But you're just digging further into the darkness. You're just digging and going further into that tunnel where the light becomes less and less and less, to the point where, you look up and the light looks like a pinprick, because if you can even see it, because you're so deep in what you're feeling. And so for me personally, I was journaling this morning, and because I'm moving through, I think, the last of my feelings and but my healing, certain parts now, is linear to the healing I've already been through. So the traumas and everything, the healings that I've already been through, that's good. I'm in that place now. I'm in that place where I have these tools, where I'm able to kind of sit down and process. Even if I don't do it right away, there's this reminder that pops up in my head, or I'll reach out to somebody, or people will reach out to me and call me and then tell me if I don't answer, you better answer that damn phone. And because they know I need to talk through it. And so I'm not going to say it has not improved my mood much, because when you're going through the healing, it's hard to deal with things, and it is helpful to kind of focus in your other area. But if you're going to focus on other things. Remember to come back to your own thing and heal it. And I've decided that there are certain things in my life that, I did that whole inner child thing, but then I thought, what about these other parts in my life? And those are the glimmers, when the glimmers are the opposite of triggers. When I see certain things now, they're not so much triggers anymore. And that's how I know I can see the glimmer of hope. Because it's like, oh, well, that didn't bother me as much. So I must be healing that, or I must be through that healing. And sometimes it will come back and haunt you, but you have these tools now that you've gained through all this healing to kind of just, move through it instead of ignoring it and putting it on a shelf and saying, I'll deal with it later. When we ignore it and put it on a shelf and say, we'll deal with it later, that's when it grows into something ugly and gross. Kind of, think a Little Shop of Horrors, right? Right? They hid Audrey too in the basement, and he kept feeding it all these people, right? So, well, maybe it was just one person. I can't remember how many people Seymour put in there, but Audrey too kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger because he kept feeding on blood and blood and blood, but then Seymour's keeping this secret. And the secret that he's keeping is getting bigger and bigger and bigger until it becomes such a big problem, they don't know what to do. And then panic ensues, right? And yeah, it's a comedy. It's a dark comedy. It's a dark musical comedy. But think of Audrey too as being that problem that you put on the shelf, and you keep feeding it all these negative thoughts, all these negative things, because you don't realize that all these things that you're not dealing with, that you're feeding into this idea that's sitting on the shelf, this big, man-eating plant on the shelf, you're making it bigger and bigger and bigger until it becomes, so big that you don't know how to contain it or handle it. So, it might start out really small and really like, oh, it's fine, I'll be fine, until it isn't. All right. So, sort of my metaphor for today. But remember, so I'm going to read this one last time and then we're going to get to our card. But like I said, I promised you the glimmers on Monday and we're doing them today. So one last time, a little guide to glimmers. Glimmers are the opposite of triggers. They are tiny moments of awe. They spark joy and evoke inner calm. They have a positive effect on our mental health. They are micro moments causing tiny mood shifts. They send cues of safety to our nervous system. They bring feelings of ease and contentment. Our body responds with positive energy. They allow us to feel hope when lost. Our nervous system is strengthened by them. They increase our well-being. And once we start embracing them, it can become a beautiful way to see the world around you. So once you start embracing those glimmers, it can be a beautiful way to see the world around you. And like I said here, the part that I added, and if you think any of this is bullshit, remember how you felt the last time you had a glimmer of hope. That glimmer of hope can turn into something huge. It can turn into something big, something that you need, something that, will fill your cup. We cannot pour from an empty cup. And when you hit bottom, that's exactly what you're trying to do. You're trying to pour from an empty cup. And then you're trying to pour that from that pot, and that pot's empty too. So you have to figure out what you need to do to find these glimmers of hope. You need to figure out what you can reach and, kind of, I don't want to say latch onto, because latching onto something doesn't necessarily mean you're healing it. It means you might just be heading in a different direction thinking it's easier. But, you have to move, you have to move through it. You have to go through it to grow through it, right? You have to feel it to heal it. All these things that you hear, splayed or displayed everywhere on social media. You have to feel it to heal it. You got to go through it to grow through it. But when it comes to these things, we have to figure out how to move through these feelings. That's why I'm a big supporter of journaling. I know it's not for everybody. I know phones now are offering journal apps. I know the iPhone does. And for people, that's their thing, because they might have an iPad, or maybe they have their phone and everything. People do so much on their phone nowadays that, I think sometimes we need to remind ourselves to take our heads out of it and start seeing the world around us. And that includes me. I'm always disappointed when I get my weekly thing that says, oh, Shelly Marie, your has, your phone time is up X amount of %. It's like, damn. And I really thought I was doing better at this. So I think, I have a little container that I can lock. And I mean, even if you take the battery out, it's not going to matter. It's just going to slow you down. It's going to take away your time, because the minute you put that battery back in, then it starts from the time that you know you took the battery out. So the only way to get things out of this thing is to break it. And when you pay good money for something, you don't want to break it. So I think maybe there's a point in my day where I need to just kind of lock up the phone for an hour or two and just sit in whatever it is I'm sitting, whether I'm watching a program or just meditating, because phones can be distracting. So oh, there you go. Marie says, set a timer for social. Hers is 2 hours. Believe it or not, guys, I'm not on social media that much. Mine is games. I play games, and I play games to kind of get out of my own head. And, you know, then I might look at social media, but to be honest with you, I probably put in about an hour or two of social media, with the exception of doing the show and posting it and, you know, going through all these things. So it's kind of surprising that, you know, I don't. And Marie is reminding me that the new app, if you do have the one on the iPhone, it does have a Face ID. So if you want to keep it private, you can keep it private. I mean, I've just put little, believe it or not, I actually use the journal to write down my ideas, because sometimes I forget and I figure, oh, okay, well, this is a place where I know I can find it. So I'll, you know, like my ideas for the show. But I don't use it enough to remember all this stuff. But, you know, even if you're just the kind of person who uses it on your phone, do it. Move through these feelings. Get them out of you. Because when you get it out of you, it's like, you know, it's like that little clown thing, right? With the handkerchief that keeps going and going and going and going and going until you get to the end. And sometimes that's what healing is. Healing may look like something on the surface, but what's inside may be what needs to come out. And so you got to keep yanking at it and yanking at it and yanking at it until you get to the core and you're like, oh. It took me almost 2 years to figure out where my emotional eating came from, because I kept healing and healing and healing and healing and healing. And then one day I went back and I'm like, oh, I kind of shot right over this one event in my life that made me, which is actually where I started emotional eating, when I was 22 years old. And it's like, oh, so you like that face? Oh, but yeah, so find those glimmers of hope for yourself. Okay. I'm gonna type these out into, in a separate post so that you can see them, screenshot it, do whatever you want to do with it. But, yeah, I'll put them in a separate post so that everybody can see it. And, hopefully kind of keep it as a guide, because having that glimmer of hope, it's amazing. It's amazing, right? And I think sometimes we lose that. You know, any of us, I think sometimes we just kind of forget that, because like I said, sometimes it's easier to wallow than it is to pick ourselves up by pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and move forward. You know, sometimes it's easier to lay flat on the ground and just be like, oh, I'm over this. And that's okay. You know, sometimes you have to take that time. You know, sometimes you have to lay there and just go, what next? And don't ask what next in a bad way. Just say, maybe you should just say, how do I get out of this? How do I start moving up again? You know, how do I help myself stand up? So I get it. Trust me. I get it. I've been there, done that, all those things. So one of the things where we struggle when it comes to those glimmers of hope, and it comes to those triggers, and it comes to all those other things. Sorry, something just popped up on one of my wallpapers just popped up, and it's kind of like, aw. So, just be yourself no matter what others might think of you. Be true to you and speak your truth. Now, for anyone who's a Harry Potter fan, you're going to recognize these as Luna Lovegood's glasses. Now, Luna was, for some people, just out there, you know, just different. But what I loved about her character was that she just didn't give a shit what other people thought. She's just like, yeah, okay. Because they're like, well, they make fun of you. Well, that's okay. You know, because she could see things. She could do things. You know, I mean, come on, this is Hogwarts, right? Everybody could do something there. I mean, you weren't overly special unless you had a lightning bolt in your head. But, sorry about that. But she didn't care what other people thought. You know, she didn't worry about what other people thought. She was just herself. And getting to be that kind of person without having an ego attached is amazing. I mean, she really is probably one of my favorite characters in that whole series. And I've never read the books. I've only seen the movies. But in the movies itself, she is probably one of my favorite characters just because I look at her and I think, there's this kind, sweet, loving person, but she's just happy being herself. She's just so comfortable being herself. I think sometimes if people put out this air of confidence and they have an ego attached to it, like, well, I'm better than everybody else, I'm this, I'm that. I mean, yeah, there is a thing called narcissistic personality disorder, but I think for the people who may not suffer from that person or that specific disorder, I think sometimes that ego is because they're not as confident and comfortable in their shoes as they might say. They may not be as comfortable walking the walk that they're walking. Walking the walk that they're walking. That makes sense? But when we learn how to just be ourselves, no matter what others might think of us, that will help us learn to be true to ourselves and to speak our truth. And that doesn't mean that everyone's going to follow your truth. You gotta pick your audience. Not everybody's going to jive with how you feel about things. Not everybody's going to jump on board with your feelings about certain things. Just because you're in a certain place, whether you're having a spiritual awakening, or maybe you're just having you're starting your spiritual awakening, or you're on this new journey, this new path, or whatever, what you think may not always be something everyone else is going to go along with. And you cannot force people to think the way you think. When you are your authentic self, when you are being yourself, when you are speaking your truth and being true to who you are, that's for you. If it touches somebody else, that's great. If it touches somebody else and then they share it, that's even better, because you're creating that ripple effect. But you cannot force it. I've done this. I'm a fixer, and I am working so hard to not be a person that tries to fix other people, because it's hard when you get to this point in your healing and you see people hurting. You see people struggling. But you know what? They have to go through the journey like I did. They have to be where they're going to be and figure it out, because I got here. Yes, I had a very good support group, but I had to do the hard work. They were the net when I was falling apart. They were the fire and rescue team when I was, felt like jumping out of a burning building, not literally, but figuratively. The ones that you can call, the ones that you can turn to, the ones who respond to certain posts of yours that remind you, hey, thank you for still being here. Or, you're going to be okay. And I see you. And, I just want you to know that even though I can't be there in person, because I have a friend who lives in Georgia, and I have known her for almost, I think, about 20 years now. And she is one of my best friends. Never met in person, but this is somebody that I have sadly overlooked over and over and over again on my healing journey. But I realized she has been there every step of the way, just in her own way. And then, of course, I always mention baby sibling and older sibling, a friend I have on Twitter that's, we're Facebook friends now. And she struggles too. She was the first person that helped me be seen when I came out with, the fact that I wasn't going to hide my trauma anymore. I wasn't going to keep it a secret, because I wanted to help people. And then, when I started opening up about my mental health, because I wanted to help people. I'm not damaged or broken. I'm just different. I might be a little wrinkled, mentally than other people, but that doesn't mean I'm any different from anybody else. Some days are just harder. And I think that's why a lot of people are afraid to talk about their mental health, because they feel they're going to be stigmatized. And I think now that we're in the 21st century, we're like 24 years into the 21st century. I think it's time that we stop stigmatizing this whole thing. I think it's time that we make time for our mental health, whether you have a dinged up mental health or not. Therapy isn't just for people who have depression. Therapy is for people who want to figure out how to work things out. They have couples therapy, they have family therapy, they have children's therapy, they have all kinds of therapy. They have, I remember Sissy Joe and I went to couples therapy. We thought it was the weirdest thing in the world, but we didn't realize, because, we were best friends. But we struggled because she was always trying to control everything I did, and I resented it. And then I realized that, she saw certain things in me on how, she reacted to things. And I kept looking at her like she was trying to be my mom, who did try to control a lot of the things in my life. And we just kept doing this. And then after we did this therapy, we had one session, and all of a sudden, but we were so open, because the therapist like, just be open with one another. Just talk openly. And, we did. And we were able to work through some things. I mean, there was still a lot more we had to work through, but we finally got things out in the open on how the other, because, I got tired of, being the proverbial punching bag for her triggers. But it was one of those things where she always knew that I would always be there, because we were sisters. I mean, I call older sibling my sister, but I met Sissy Joe first. I met her, and she became she was like the first person I ever really considered a sister, because like I've mentioned before, I'm an only child. And then older sibling came along, and then of course baby sibling, she's my cousin. But, I collect siblings. Of course, we've lost Sissy Joe passed away about 9 years ago, but 8.5 years ago. But that aside, we have to figure out how to end that stigma, and that's why I speak my truth. That's why I'm trying to do my best to just be who I am, to walk my walk, and know when and where is the right place to talk my talk. Because, like I said, not everybody is going to love what you're saying. Some people might just be ashamed because that's how they grew up. I mean, like I said, I've had depression since my teens, but we didn't talk about that when I was a kid. And then when I did finally talk about it in my 20s, I was immediately shut down. So I didn't start dealing with it until my 40s. And now I'm in my 50s. My early 50s. I'm 51. But now I'm here. And I'm finally in this place that I've always wanted to be. And because of my age, I feel like there's so many things I missed the opportunity for. And that is something that I've been trying to work through. God, see, I'm sorry. I didn't bring Kleenex into my room, so I don't want to cry. But that's something I've been trying to work through in the last couple of weeks. It's just trying not to live in a place where there were things that I wanted, but never happened. And, like being a parent, getting married, doing all that stuff. And now it's just, at this point in my life, it's like, I would just like to find somebody to spend the rest of my life with, or to just even have a nice, beautiful, loving relationship with for however long it lasts. But I'm also not going to put myself down for being single for as long as I have. Because I have done things. I've done lots of fun things with fun people and my friends and the people I've met along the way. And it's been a beautiful experience. And that's what I'm trying to focus on now. Not what I've missed, but instead what I've done. The things I've accomplished. The people I've helped without even realizing I've helped. And that's everybody else too. That's all of us in our lives. Let's try not to regret what we may not have done in our lives. Let's not try to recapture those golden days or those good old days that never existed for some of us. It never existed for me, because back then I was just trying to live with, the trauma, and I was doing the fake it till you make it smile. But at the same time, there were times when I just forgot about all the bad things, and I lived in that moment, and I had fun in those moments. And, then sometimes the weird stuff does creep back up on you, and that's what you don't want to happen. That's why it's so important to find that way to heal, to allow yourself to move through these things so that they don't creep up on you. So when you have that quiet moment after a super fun day, you're not sitting there going, well, this sucks, because you're back in those feelings again. And like I said, that doesn't mean the feelings are going to go away forever. You're going to learn how to live with them. You're going to learn how to push them aside and say, not today. Say, not today. Put up that hand and go, nope, I'm over it. But give yourself some grace. Give yourself some compassion. Give yourself some empathy. And allow yourself to have that glimmer of hope. right? Allow yourself to have that glimmer of hope. You know what? I think that's going to be our quote for the day. I'm going to write it down, because if I don't, I will forget it. And I have to go all back through the video to find it. So allow yourself to have that glimmer of hope. And should we add and then make it so? Just like Captain Picard, make it so. I know, such a nerd. Anyways, so there you go. Like I said, you never know what you're going to get with a live, guys. A little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. But be strengthened by your glimmers, all right? Because that's what they're there for. That's what their whole point of being is. It's to remind us that there's always hope. There's always that path forward. There's always that path to go up from that hole that you might be sitting in. And just move forward. Move forward. You should only look back long enough to see how far you've come. But that's, you know, I can say that for me, I try not to look too far back anymore unless I'm trying to heal something, because I don't want to look back and see what I missed anymore. I want to look back and realize, wow, look at all I've done. Look at all the things that I've places I've been, things I've seen, things I always wanted to do and finally got to do. Yeah, maybe I didn't have the typical nuclear life, but I've still done a lot, and I've still, you know, and I'm still moving through life. I'm still lucky to have my health. I'm lucky to be alive. And I think when it comes down to that, instead of worrying about everything else around us, we should be fortunate that we wake up breathing every morning. Because somewhere in the world, someone hasn't. Somewhere in the world, someone's saying goodbye to somebody. Somewhere in the world, someone's saying goodbye to someone they think they're going to see and are never going to see again. You know, at least alive. And it might seem grim, it might seem gruesome to say things like that, but those are our reminders to be grateful that every morning our eyes open, we're breathing, we're alive, and to be grateful for that, no matter how much shit is going on around us. Because that means we still have time to fix it. That means we still have time to gratitude our attitude and gratitude our way out of things. And, you know, gratitude may not be that magic wand you want it to be, but it's going to turn your thinking around. It's going to start, and when your thinking turns, your feelings turn. And what energy you put out there, that's the energy you're going to get back. So if you're putting out there something negative, you're going to continually get something negative back. And that's something I'm working on, because my energy is kind of, it's a little frayed right now. It's a little scattered, and it's a little wonky, to be honest. But I feel that glimmer of hope when I think about certain things, when something makes me smile, when something gives me hope. I'm going to learn now how to put my trust in it. I'm not a trusting person. I know that sounds terrible, but you have to work hard to earn my trust. And if you break that trust, we're done. So, you know, I was taking my friend and her boyfriend to the airport yesterday, and we talked about that, how like older sibling just jumps in feet first when it comes to trust. And I'm back there like, no. And I told her, I said, you know, because I told her, I said, well, you know, you really shouldn't jump in feet first. But then I looked at her and I said, but I'm no better, because, you know, I'm just kind of like, you know, you get held at arm's length until I decide that you can, you know, be closer to me. But I said, somewhere in the middle, it's like if her and I could figure out why we do the things we do, maybe we could meet somewhere in the middle where we don't seem so I don't seem so standoffish, and she doesn't seem so eager, right? And I don't mean, I'm just using her and I as an example, but where we don't seem so standoffish, we don't seem so eager, but we sit there and we listen, and we open ourselves to that trust that can eventually lead to a personal trust. You know, to be open with people, so somebody doesn't say, God, that girl is such a bitch, she didn't say anything that night, or, oh my God, that girl is so blah, 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 when they don't realize you're just standoffish because you're nervous. Because, you know, you've been through things where you trusted people and that trust was broken. And you're trying to figure out how to move back into a place where you can fix that. So remember, you cannot fix anybody else. You can only fix yourself. You can help guide people. You can share your own experiences with people, but do it only if they ask. Or if your spidey instincts say, hey, you know what, if you don't mind, I want to share something with you. You know, but also if you're going through this pain, there are people in this world that are going to try to one up everything you do. So I have learned to just, you know, so people don't think that's what I'm trying to do. I have just learned, do you mind if I share a story with you? You know, and that doesn't mean you have to say, I'm not trying to make it bigger than yours. But sometimes when we relate experiences we've been through, we can help people move through theirs. We're showing them our map, you know, and our map is not for their journey. But sometimes if you show people the ley lines of a certain, you know, part of your map, they may understand how to move forward, you know. So think of it as like a contractor. You know, you have somebody who's out there who's been, you know, laying roads for 15 years, right? And you get this new guy wet behind the ears, or this new girl, whoever, this new worker who's like, I have no idea how to do this. So you show them, and eventually they figure it out. They figure it out on their own. And then they turn around and teach somebody else and give them that knowledge, and so on and so on and so on. All right. So I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Remember, allow yourself to have that glimmer of hope, and then make it so. Let it grow. Let it grow inside of you, that hope. Let that glimmer of hope, you know, bring something to you. Let it be the sunshine in your garden. Let it be the sunshine in your day. You know, let it warm up the pools of your heart. Now I'm just getting cheesy. So anyways, all right. Have a great, great day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back here tomorrow on the Aloha Perspective page, 8:30 a.m. Pacific Time, Facebook Live. All lives are public. I post them afterwards to Facebook, or not Facebook, sorry, YouTube under the Aloha Perspective. I got confused there because I do share this to my own page, my own personal page. And then I do also do a shorter version for TikTok. So today on TikTok, it's actually I'm just going to talk about the little guide to glimmers, because, you know, you only get so much time. So anyways, again, be your authentic self, speak your truth. Don't force your truth on other people. Just speak from your heart. And then whoever wants to hear it will hear it. Whoever isn't ready to hear it, they'll learn eventually. They'll get there on their own. But we cannot fix people. We cannot force people to be something we want them to be. But we can hold the light for them until they are ready to hold that light for themselves. All right. So have a great, great day. Thank you so much for watching. Baby sibling, older sibling, thank you for popping on. Baby sibling, thank you for contributing the stuff on the journal app on the iPhone. I know the Android has it because my friend has an Android, and she told me that there's a journal app on there that she's been using. So if you have either one of these, I think it's the Samsung. But if you have any of those, you know, there's also free journals that you can get through the app stores. Or just do what I do. Buy a book. Get a pen. I'm old school. What can I say? Come on, I've been writing stories since before computers existed. So, I am in the era of the in-between. So, you know, have a great, great day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.